Well, folks, here we go. Well, good old JR is here, and I'm about to introduce. What? What do you mean it's not politically correct to talk like this? By God, we've all gone south. By God. All right, I'll switch it up for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our wrestling podcast. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. So, without further ado, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall, and today's topic, well, I guess technically it would be the second fall, and today's topic, the legacy of Mick Foley Part 2.
I hope you all have a nice day, and I really hope I'm having a nice day, which it is.
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess.
Hello, Dave.
And Craig. Bringing you our perspective of the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, the legacy of Mick Foley, Part 2. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P. 2019. You can click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. And don't forget, we're now part of the WrestleHub family, which is all about wrestling podcasts. You can catch them at the WrestleHub on YouTube and Instagram. You guys ready for this? It's all about the WWF/E.
Yeah, we're going to jump in. We wanted part 2 to be really all about WWF because that's the biggest meat, I think, of his career. I really liked part 1, and I'm glad we kept it separate now that I think about it, because we really got to talk more about his WCW run and the important period in ECW and Japan and stuff and what that meant to his career. So I'm glad we kind of didn't rush past it, because it's very important. Arguably more important to a certain extent, more than his WWF run, even though his biggest accomplishments will come in this run in WWF. But I think that the other stuff had to stand on its own because it really helped define who he was.
I was going to say, you got to lay the foundation, right, Craig?
That's right. And you knew of him by the time he got to the World Wrestling Federation. At this point, you'd watched him in WCW, and even if you weren't a huge ECW fan and you didn't have access to tapes, kind of mainstream fans still knew he was something special. So he was ready to make an impact and ready to get to what they call the big time.
Yeah. And in 96, Mick Foley actually does sign a contract with the WWF. Head of Talent Relations, Jim Ross, was instrumental in that decision.
My God.
But VKM, by God,
I
he
really
did
need
not
you to
share
hire
the
Mick,
same-
Vince. You have to hire Mick.
It's really important. We can
Special
really get him in there.
talent,
We can do
special
something.
athlete.
He's special.
He's a special
He's super
kid.
special. You need to do it, Vince.
You know what's sad is we're doing that. I don't think he had this problem at this point. But we're still doing that.
He
What
did.
problem,
He
Dave?
did. Is that right?
What problem?
He did at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't see a problem. What are
He
you
had,
talking
to
about?
he had to polish it.
And
He had to polish
you're
it.
mocking it, not me. I just want to go on record and say that it's you.
I can look at the
Just
video.
says
And I
on
can
the
say
dollar,
that is
Dave.
not true.
Fire man.
Anyway, Jim, we love you. Don't be upset if you ever.
If
for
you
some
don't
reason
have a
see
Jim
this.
Ross impression in your bag, in your personal bag with your friends who watch wrestling,
you
you're
can't
not a
be
wrestling
on a
fan.
wrestling podcast.
Thank
Flat out, you're a piece of shit. Let me just say that.
Yeah, you're garbage. If you don't have a JR impression, you're a garbage person.
If you don't have an offensive impersonation of Jim Ross, you're a piece of shit.
If you don't mock
We're
people
going-
with
we're
Bell's
going.
palsy, you're
You are a
You're a
scumbag.
We're all.
half my
going to
friends don't
hell.
work. Right? High five, everybody?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
All right. So Vince actually thought that Foley was this unhinged maniac in real life that the character of Cactus Jack would portray. But after he met Foley and kind of talks to him for a little bit, he's like, oh, wow, this guy's really creative. He's an energetic, intelligent talent that could be offered up to the WWE gods, right? He would debut, though, as Mankind. That character was a deranged maniac that wore a leather mask and lived in dark boiler rooms and basements. When he walked, Foley would slump one side of his body to give a crumpled physical appearance, kind of like what the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah, and
is
people
the
who
best thing
that's a very good point. People who play that, you know, that or the Elephant Man, when they do the play The Elephant Man on Broadway, they don't use makeup on that. Like, they hire an actor that can physically kind of change his body and his face to portray that. They actually don't put any prosthetics on the Elephant Man on the Elephant Man play. I often think about that when I would see Foley, when he would come out here as Mankind. He would walk with like his right shoulder slumping and kind of not limping, but you could tell he was just this crumpled basement dweller. Like, just kind of is amazing to what he did. Like, it was different than Cactus Jack. It was a different walk. It was different. He had to take on a whole new persona. He could have easily just done the Cactus Jack shtick with the Mankind gimmick on, and Vince would have been fine with that. But Mick wanted to be different. He wanted to make Mankind look and feel different than Cactus Jack was.
Anticipation. Yes, here it comes. Mankind on his way to the ring.
Coming down the aisle, weighing 287 pounds.
And I think the Mankind gimmick, too, was a bit of a compromise, wasn't it? I think McMahon wanted something, the Mutilator, or...
Mason the Mutilator.
Yeah, and I think Mick said, how about something about Mankind, and made it more kind of cerebral again. This guy has been hurt by life and he's the worst of mankind kind of thing. And I think he wasn't super thrilled with the gimmick, I believe, but he got to a point where he was comfortable doing it. And I think at that point, if he tells you to cut your hair, you cut your hair. And if Vince McMahon wants you to be Mankind, you're Mankind.
Right. Yeah.
How is Foley not the head of, like, I don't want to say talent relations, but like the head of gimmicks somehow? Like, how does he not have that job? Just
we'll talk about later.
Stupid fucking shit.
Yeah. We'll talk about later. This is just my opinion. I truly believe he doesn't care for Vince. I think that he respects Vince. I think that him and Vince have been through a lot together, obviously, because Vince put a lot of stock in.
But it's a lot of dealing with Vince's shit.
But just like we're going to talk about later, when he was that commentator for SmackDown for that 4-month period, he fucking hated Vince yelling at people and yelling in his ear. So I don't think he can tolerate Vince. I think he got to a point where he's just like, I don't think he could.
So why would you want to work at that level?
Why would you want to
work in the talent realm, but not?
Yeah, why
not
isn't that's a great question. Why isn't Foley head of creative? Why isn't Foley road agent? Why isn't this? He does. I don't think he really cares for Vince that much.
Doesn't want to.
Yeah, in the sense of, like, Vince will bother him. I think he wants to think of Vince as this distant father figure or brother figure or whatever, and not actually work with Vince every 5 seconds, because he's afraid I might hate the motherfucker, like, if I work with him like too much.
And I think his entire goal is to carve out, and everyone's goal is to carve out your own niche, right? So best-selling author, stand-up comedy, it's finding other ways where you're not on the road and not beholden to Vince 24/7 and on that Titan time. Good. Yeah,
I'll tell you, I worked in an industry where in the same industry of the same business, actually, I sold for a guy who I had a buffer between him and the owner, and it was cool. We were cool because I was a sales guy. The minute I went internally, I found out how horrible this person was. So I totally get that analogy, like, why would he not want to work in the back with Vince when you're talent and you can't hear him yelling at people from the back to the front? But then you like I said, you get a taste of that. You're like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, I just don't. That makes a lot of sense.
I'd rather think fondly of the guy. I don't want to hate him, and if I have to work closely with him in the back, I'm gonna hate him, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. He actually makes his debut the night after WrestleMania 12 on an episode of Raw. So Foley, which is Mankind at this point, would defeat Bob Sparkplug Holly in a match. Later in the evening, he would do a run out during the Undertaker match and actually attack him there. And this started the biggest and most infamous feud of Foley's career. Yes.
And can I say, when Foley first debuted, he was there might have been other people in the past, I don't know. he was the first wrestler I'd ever heard that had an entrance music and a different music played after he won. So Foley came down to the weird, like, whatever music. And then when he would win, it was this creepy piano music. So he would beat someone with the mandible claw, and then he would sit there rocking himself, and he pulled the hair out of his head. And like they would change the lighting. And it was like a piano exit music. It was weird. Like, and I'd never heard that before. And it was awesome. Like, it was really awesome. Do you guys remember that?
I can't. The only thing close to that right now is the Fiend, right? The Fiend can have different music depending on his persona. Yeah.
Well, that's just his different persona. But see, Mankind. Original. Sorry, I'm actually. I do want to play this because like it really struck a chord with me. Yeah, Mankind original theme.
That's
Here
crazy.
We go. Here's the first one. This was him coming out.
God, it feels very Undertaker to me.
That was his entrance music when he first debuted as Mankind. And let me see. Mankind original exit. I guess exit is what you're going to call it.
It's like Eye of the Tiger.
Yes. It's right here.
Wow.
I never made that connection.
Yes, and he did it for probably only the first 6 months to a year. So that first music was his entrance music when he would come out, and then he beat someone with a mandible claw, and then the ref would have to break him up because he wouldn't let go, and then he would just start talking to himself in the corner and rocking back and forth and pulling his hair, and then the light, like a silhouette would just fall on him of like a spotlight, and that creepy piano music, would play. And that always stuck with me about his first run. I was like, I've never heard that before. I've never heard of winning music or exit music, whatever you want to call it. It's awesome.
Imagine if you're Jim Johnston and you're like, what? I got to do two? What, you had two themes?
I already made the guy's fucking music.
Two guys.
Now he wants exit. I don't fucking know, Jim. Just do it. Like, I can do it.
Wait. So wait. It's a piano for when he wins.
So what if he doesn't win?
I'm working on oddities right now, and Kane and.
The Undertaker wants a version 5 of his fucking music. I don't know.
Are you sure that? Are you sure he talks like that? I'm just.
I don't know what Jim Johnson sounds like.
Yeah. Well, Sparkplug got me on hold because I can't finish that because I got 2 of these.
I can't do Sparky Plug. I can't do Sparky Plug.
Yeah. Damn it. Then you know what? Then you talk to Sean because he's up my ass right now about a different version of his fucking theme music too. So you fucking talk to Sean.
Oh, Sean. Yeah. So they, meaning the Undertaker and Mankind, would face each other at SummerSlam in '96 in a boiler room brawl match. The winner would have to fight their way out of the boiler room and make their way to the ring and take the urn from the Undertaker's manager, Paul Bearer. You guys remember Paul Bearer?
I do.
I tried to. I
have
Paul
a vague
Bearer.
story. I have a vague story about him that I can't really remember right now.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to watch this match.
It's rich,
and tell me if I was wrong, and I should have stuck with it. I didn't like it. The boiler room match.
No, you're not wrong. I remember watching it live, and I was interested because it was something different, and we loved Mick Foley. So, and it was cool. But I did go back and try to watch it earlier in the week, and I did stop halfway through. I'm like, it was really, when I look back on it, some things hold up and some things don't. I don't mean to be rude. It didn't hold up. However, there were some cool stiff shots. But the whole the scenario at the end that Dave's going to read is what the payoff was, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, I was going to say the payoff is what matters, right? So Taker mixes the ring first. Paul Bearer would align with Mankind by striking Undertaker in the head with the urn. You son of a bitch, Paul Bearer.
What are you doing? I can't believe what we're seeing. Mankind must take possession of the urn he has, and he is the winner. Wow.
The winner of this contest, Mankind!
He would then hand it to Mankind, and Mankind wins the match, right? So, yeah, there's your payoff. But at the end of the day, yeah, a lot of these matches that kind of travel to the ring don't really hold up. at least our recent Money in the Bank stuff ended up in a ring at the end, but the stuff in between is just all.
Well, and also too, this is
right?
a major splash. I mean, you're coming into a promotion, you kind of wrestle with Vince a little bit on your gimmick, and then he's like, "All right, Vince, what am I gonna do?" He's like, "Oh, you're gonna face the Undertaker," and it's like, oh, "Okay, fuck." And he already knew that the Undertaker was kind of a locker room leader at this point, so like I think Foley knew it's super important for me right now to impress this guy. But right away, Undertaker has said in interviews like, "I loved him." And like he got it. Like he just is a genius. And so Undertaker right away was like, yeah, let's do whatever you want. Like you're really good. So I think people were kind of, again, they see these death matches that he was in, and Vince, earlier in the notes had the impression of isn't he really crazy, Jim? Vince is fucking stupid. He's not fucking crazy.
He sold Vince.
He's a normal human being. God damn it! Like, and Vince is just like, I don't know. That's the thing.
He sold Vince before Vince met him. Vince is like, no, he's really crazy.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's not. He's just that
so.
good.
A lot of people in the locker room were probably like hesitant and just like, is this guy fucking sane? And then when he comes in, he's like, hey, let's do this, let's do that, and I can do this, and I can do this bump and that bump, and they're like, oh, you're a really good pro wrestler. Fuck me. Like, and it's just, it kind of.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed he smells like burning flesh half the time. So if that dude's in your locker room and you just smell burning flesh,
if that's
you're like, what the?
I kind of understand.
Who's the new guy?
I'm hoping by 96.
No, Vince, he doesn't smell like burning flesh. He got burnt in real life. God damn it. Get over yourself, Vince. He's a normal guy.
I heard he always smells like.
He always smells. He got burned. It's not he's not really rotting.
Smells like steak.
Why
does he smell like steak?
He doesn't smell like burnt flesh all the time. I heard that somewhere.
He's just yelling off to the side, Vince.
All right, Jared.
Yelling to no one in general. Why does he smell like steak? Why the fuck does he smell like steak? Vince, who the fuck are you yelling at? Who are you talking to? Nobody. Anyway.
Your name is well done because you smell like steak, you son of a bitch. One moment in that, we were talking on the part one about him giving that elbow drop on the concrete, and he rolls that move out in this boiler room match, except he goes up probably 8 feet and hits Undertaker on the floor, kind of from Pipe's ladder, the elbow drop, and it's just like, ow, man, and the impact's not there, and it's just indicative of the match. It's like,
I love how you just say,
kill
ow.
yourself for that. And then, of course, he was named. Well done.
Just Vince yelling.
It's well done.
There was a tag team named Well Done, right?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yelling in
in September of
an
96.
invasion angle?
I gotta
Good
roll.
for them. Good for Hogan.
Stop
Fuck.
it. I'm rolling.
All three of them, Hogan,
moving
Hogan,
on.
Nash, well, fucking good for them. We're better. Like just
Your name is
in September. In September. It's off the rail. It's off the rails. In September of 96, Mankind would challenge Shawn Michaels for the WWF Heavyweight Championship at In Your House Mind Games. This match was fantastic. Even though Mankind would lose by disqualification, the match was so good, it greatly improved the way the locker room saw Mick as a pro wrestler. In Foley's book, Have a Nice Day, Sting would call Mick after the match and congratulate him on an amazing showing, guys.
Yes, but read the next sentence. Yeah.
I thought you needed a moment there. I will read the next sentence. But if Sting goes out of his way to call you, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this ties into part one where for 4 years, Mick Foley's favorite match was the Beach Blast match versus Sting. And so Sting called him after this because Sting obviously watched this match on pay-per-view. And he called Mick Foley and he's like, wow, that was a really good match you had with Shawn tonight. Pretty much fishing around like, this is your fucking new favorite match, isn't it? Like, and pretty much, and Foley was just like,
and the answer is
yeah,
yes.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And then Sting's like, okay.
Foley would break
like,
Sting's heart when he reveals that match is indeed his new favorite match. He was disappointed, but he understood that. God, we talk a lot of shit on Shawn Michaels, but there's a lot of people who just, if you had to say, who's the one person you go wrestle one more time, or who's the one person you wish you could wrestle, Shawn's name comes up a lot of fucking times.
But Jesus, honestly,
I'm staring at Jess on his. I'm just staring at his reaction. I feel the same way, Dave. I'm sorry, Jess. Go ahead.
I'm just saying.
I'll tie it in. I'll back off a little bit because I shit on Shawn all the time. But as far as in-ring work is concerned, I mean,
There's no
Very
question.
few people could touch him, but I'm going to compliment Foley here. So Foley has worked with the Sting. He's worked with the Vader. He's worked in tag team matches. He came in working with arguably the biggest talent they had, The Undertaker, as far as name notoriety is concerned. And he was a locker room leader. So how you work with The Undertaker dictates how the locker room views you and how Vince views you, more importantly. And then he gets in there with Shawn Michaels and wrestles. It's still hardcore-ish, but it's Shawn's style of match, to where Shawn, I don't know if it was Shawn's book or Mick's book. I mix this up all the time, where he was afraid of Mick Foley. And when Foley started talking to him, Shawn's like, oh, well, this guy's a fucking genius, isn't he? Like, Shawn let his guard down. This guy's fucking like, he wants to do all this great stuff. And Shawn wanted to do that, to his credit, because he got pinned in that sexy boy kind of gimmick. And Shawn knew that he was, Shawn will tell you till he's blue in the face about how great he was. And he was, though. Shawn was really good. So Shawn wanted to work with different opponents. And Shawn wanted to prove to his critics that I can get in there with this guy who's super, quote unquote, hardcore and rough, and we can have a good match. And Shawn was blown away at Mick's professionalism and the way Mick could lay out a match, because Mick's a genius. And so Shawn's like, yeah, let's go. And they tore the fucking house down. Like, Foley's almost calling his shots here. Like, I can work with that guy. I can work with that guy. Yeah, no problem. Because he's so good. He goes to them and he's like, what do you want to do? How do you see it? Well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
No. Listen. Like, I'll do whatever you want, and I will do shit. You can do shit to me, and I will take the bump so vicious that's going to get you over. And that's Foley's big thing. Is that, so Shawn's like, yes, I need to look tougher, because his gimmick was a little soft at the time. You know, they put the belt on Shawn at Mania 12. He's a little too goody two shoes. People start booing him a little bit. So Shawn's like, I need to get beaten up. I need someone to fucking take me to my limits and beat the shit out of me, but me come back. And the whole match, if you go back and listen to it, the Vince and them in commentary is like, Shawn's not backing down. Shawn has just got a vicious side to him. They're really trying. So Foley knows, like, I got to be a company man here. I got to put their goddamn champion over. I have to make Shawn look a little vicious. So people who are kind of booing him or thinking he's just this dancey playboy kind of guy or playgirl kind of guy, he's not. He's he can get in there and wrestle a little stiff and hardcore if he wants to. And the match was phenomenal. What do I say?
And Michaels has proven time and time again that he can mix it up in any style match you want. If you want to brawl, he can brawl, because he's quicker than most people. If you want a scientific matchup, look at this. You'll get that one too. Michaels just finished off Mankind. Michaels sets his victory. Here we go. Sweet chin music. This is going to be over. No, it's not. Mankind saw the kick coming and leaped from the ring. Mankind.
When you watch, go to the network 2013 Hall of Fame ceremony and Mick Foley's Hall of Fame speech and Terry Funk's introduction, and when you read online about him, a lot of people just simply say he's a good man. They love working with him. He's a friendly, amiable, great to work with, a good man. And I have a soft spot in my heart for kind of underrated, selfless, egoless guys like him and Anderson. And I think, as we talked about,
I hate the fact that this industry eats people like that up. You
correct.
Know, it's the loud Shawn Michaels and
survive.
shit, and the problem causers that get remembered.
Yes.
And the egos of the Hulks and, you know, all that stuff, like, they get remembered. But the guys like Foley, who truly understand how wrestling should work and what it's all about, they don't get, like, to coin my phrase, they don't get trumpeted ever. They don't get, you know.
He's not on the
Shawn
Mount
Michaels
Rushmore,
is going
right?
in the Hall of Fame. Shawn Michaels is going in the Hall of Fame. And then when Foley goes in, we'll talk about it later. Foley's going in this year. Foley.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Really? It should be fucking Mick Foley's going in the Hall of Fame, and you should be singing his praises because he made your guys the way what he was.
If you remember, there was almost a point on what they did with the USA Network is they would do the Hall of Fame ceremony live, which was 7-8 hours long, and then they would cut that down to 2 hours on a night. And there was 2013, there was a possibility that Mick Foley's speech was going to be cut completely out of the ceremony on USA on the cut down version. That's kind of a good indicator of, like, no, man, demand that your shit gets your part of, like, that 2-hour kind of ceremony.
Yeah.
Like, so
No, we will talk about that later because I did put that in the notes a little bit later. Talk about because things happened that year that kind of kicked Foley out of the quote unquote main event Hall of Fame position. Every year there's a main eventer, if that makes sense, that goes in. There's the crowning jewel for that class. And it should have been Foley that year and it wasn't. But Dave, go on because I will go nuts like right now. I'll start losing my shit.
Yeah, we'll move on. Foley would continue his feud with The Undertaker through the winter of 96. He has a useless tag match with Vader versus Davey Boy and Owen for the tag titles at WrestleMania 13. It's just kind of awkward, pointless. And then June of 97 on Raw, there's a series of shoot-style interviews between Mankind and Jim Ross. I remember these. These were fantastic.
This is
taking
what...
this realistic approach.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, taking this realistic approach, fans got to actually learn more about Mankind as a person. And this takes the crowd to start cheering for Mankind, sympathizing with him as that character. In those videos, he would also mention the character he created as a teenager, Dude Love, which we've seen on those videos that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we talk about, the milestones I was talking about on part 1. This is a big one. This is the one that they were just like, what if we do a vignette where we kind of talk about you? In ECW, he did this in that promo that I was telling you guys about, where he was like, this is Cactus Jack. No, scratch that. I'm coming to you as Mick Foley. This was on a grander scale with a company that had production value and could make it mean something.
And they were behind
and by the way, NWO was beating the shit out of them in the ratings. So they had nothing to lose at this point. So they wanted to take Foley out of his character and make you sympathize with him. So they did these awesome vignettes where Foley was sitting dressed up as Mankind and he was still acting kind of in character, but he was talking about jumping off the garage when he was a kid. He was talking about doing all that stuff. And so this line that always stuck with me when he looked at Jim Ross and he was like, do you think I like pain? They think I do, Jim. Do you? And Jim was like, I don't know. I think you do. And he was just like, no. Do you think I like that? Do you think I like pain? Coming home to my son and my daughter and my wife and saying like, Daddy can't play with you today because Daddy can't walk. Like, and it was awesome. It's this emotional like thing. It's he recreated what he did in ECW. Sorry. Hear on this scale with the WWF production stuff. Are you laughing right now because he fucking mandible claws Jim Ross? Is that what you're thinking?
No, even before that, just take it. Mankind, do you like barbecue sauce? Is your favorite? You like Chipotle or Smoky Carolina?
Jim, I feel you're trying to get yourself over.
Yeah, Jim, I like barbecue sauce.
This is about getting me over, not you. I was an honest question. If you could buy one for an affordable price, would you visit a website that would allow you to do such? Jim, I think you're getting way off script here.
I look at you and I love you so much, Mick. Mankind, your name is Mankind. Can I smell your hair? I want to smell your hair.
Jim, I think
it's not doing justice for how good these vignettes are.
Yeah, no, these vignettes are really good.
They are amazing.
Like Dave said in the notes, it got the people to finally like the person, which turned him face when I don't know if they were really trying for that, but it turned him face because people were like, well, that's fucking sad. I come home to my kids every day and there's so many times where my kids have asked me, I'm tired and I'm bitching selfishly about, I worked 10 hours today. I can't play with you right now. I should have played with my goddamn kids. And so Foley's putting that forward. Like, you think I like pain? You think I like falling off things? You think I like getting hit so much I can't walk the next day? So when my kids are like, Daddy, play with me. And I'm like, sorry, Daddy can't. Like, it was awesome. And once again, he's kind of shitting on the fans, like a little bit. Like you guys like that, but that's not what I like. I like my kids to be able to play with a healthy father, it was awesome. And so you kind of saw this thing. And I want to say the last vignette did end with him fucking sticking his mandible claw down Jim Ross's throat. But I mean, you have to always come back to wrestling, right? At that point. But it did its job.
You gotta have a payoff, right?
It did its job.
At the end of the day, it's the guys that break through to that next level, and the Stone Colds and Hogans are guys who are extensions of who they are, and he never got a chance before this moment to be who he is. So to your point earlier about what he learned and how he made his art in ECW and those promos there, you got to relate to this man in some kind of strange way on a subconscious level. You're like, oh, that's right. He's just a guy and he kills himself, but he's killing himself. He's actually got kids at home and he's doing it not for us, but when you relate to someone, and it goes all the way back to when they showed the other footage of him in high school, it's like, I am him. I want to be him. I could, in some Superman version of myself, be Mick Foley. It was this moment that you're like, okay, he's not just a silly gimmick of a guy that wears a stinky mask. He's a real guy, and he deserves like respect. He just took him to that next level in that strange, relatable way, and he became an extension of who he actually is.
Integrity. You know what you tell the people week in and week out? You say, look at Mankind. I don't even know if he feels pain or maybe he likes pain. You see, you're a powerful man, Jimmy. You have got the ability to reach a lot of people, to spread the truth, and you neglect to do it. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What is it about pain that I love? You see, I feel just like every other person. You see that? It hurts. Is it when I can't get up? When my little boy...
Yeah, and this would, his career would just really start taking off in WWF after those vignettes.
I mean, this whole push takes him right up to the King of the Ring finals in June of '96. He does lose those finals to Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Of course he does.
And you know what? That's my fault on that. It's 97. That's a typo on my part.
Oh, I'm sorry, 97. But, you know, to the point, Triple H was supposed to...
David, why do you lie about you?
Why do
you like pain in wrong years?
But the following month, on June 14th, episode of Raw, Dude Love would actually debut and join Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he actually replaces an injured Shawn Michaels to defend. Is it defending the tag team titles, or do they win
defending.
the tag team titles? Jess?
Michaels and Austin were tag team champions, but
that's right. They had a tag
Michaels,
team.
I don't know if he lost his smile or his balls. I don't remember what happened at this time.
Or his backbone.
Something happened. Like it.
But he actually, they do defeat Owen and Bulldog, and Dude Love becomes half of the tag team champions with Austin at that point. Kind of a big deal. That's kind of fun.
I watched this today. Dude Love, least favorite of all his personalities. I think maybe he had a lot of control at this point, or he kind of sold himself.
It's still fun, though, right?
It was fun, and it was the thing where in the promo package, Mankind wanted to be his tag partner, and they did a little thing in the ring where Austin said, "I'll be your tag partner," shook his hand, Stone Cold Stunners, and said, "Don't trust anyone, you're not going to be my tag team partner." And then he wrestled on Raw against Owen and the Bulldog, most of the match by himself, and then Dude Love kind of comes on the screen on the Titantron. He comes out, and it's a really kind of fun time. You can tell they're enjoying themselves. But it was
because you all got to think like Love. Austin gave the look when you looked at the Titantron. He's like, Mick Foley's crazy, like, and because everybody knows that it's Mankind, but like he's coming out as Dude Love, and I think it was awesome because even Owen and Bulldog responded like, this guy's fucking crazy, coming down. So it was cool because, again, you got to learn who Mick Foley was from those vignettes. So when he would act out as Dude Love, you're like, he's crazy, but I love it. Like, he's just like,
they already set the table. Yeah. This is the guy he wanted to be ever since he was a kid.
He said in his book, too, that when Shawn Michaels became a singles wrestler, he was jealous of Shawn because he was like, that's my Dude Love. I wanted to be that guy. So when I was a teenager, that was way before Shawn ever did it. I think it was before Shawn was even in the Rockers. And so when Shawn became the sexy boy gimmick, like Foley's like, that's my Dude Love. I wanted to be that guy, the guy with the vest and the shiny shit and the glasses and these chicks love me. And and that's what he wanted to be. And so it's crazy.
It's just so funny because, like, seriously, good luck. I mean, without it being a joke of a gimmick, for the gimmick, I mean, but still, I understand. I want to be Dude Love too, but
Dude Love did play it tongue in cheek here. He knew that Dude Love was
exactly. That's my point.
Yeah, he brings groupies in at the end of the match after he gets the tag titles. It's kind of an awkward moment. And one of the a little known 6.5 maybe.
A little known fact: that night, one of the groupies was his wife.
Oh,
in one of them, yeah.
My bad. No, his wife's.
No, you were fine. It's not like you said. He brought out 3 sluts at the end. I'd be like, Craig, excuse me, one of them was 5.
No, his wife is gorgeous.
His wife is gorgeous. Yeah, she's really pretty. He always says in his book too. He's like, I have no idea why she would marry like a bear like me. Like I'm slumpy and hairy and like all that. And she was a model, legitly.
Wow.
Yeah, there's an awkward moment. Like Austin goes in and he's kind of doing his thing with the groupies. And then Austin kind of like forces away and shakes and kind of throws the belt at him and then bails out. But
yeah,
it was good.
And in 97, again, NWO was beating the shit out of them. So you got to see this point where not only are they kind of rediscovering what Mick Foley can do, but they still haven't figured out Austin's character yet. It was very close.
So
it was
weird,
very close,
right?
but they hadn't really figured out the Austin that would break that ceiling and go.
It's on the rise. It's on the rise.
Good.
Right?
This is good, interesting stuff to go back and watch because you're watching history. You're watching 2 guys that would become major legends figure out their shit.
Well, and even when you look at Stone Cold and his attitude and what he's doing here, you think they're over at this point, and they're not. Not yet. They're getting there, but they're not. Yeah. They're not over. It's very interesting. Time.
You look at Steve Austin's body in. That sounds awful, weird to say, but July of '97. He looks amazing. His traps and his abs.
He does look hot. You're right.
He's
sorry. I'm sorry.
He's a sexy
I gotta
boy.
not take this to places. Dave's trying to keep us on track, and
yeah, it's all
I'm sorry.
At SummerSlam '97, Mankind would defeat Hunter in a steel cage match.
Can I smell your hair, Austin? Let me smell your
No,
hair.
you cannot. So what I will say is, opening a pay-per-view and actually beating Triple H, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Well, and also this too, it's weird. Like he was feuding with Triple H as Mankind at this point, but he was tagging with as Dude Love. So it's like they at the end of this match, he gets on top of the steel cage to mimic Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and he drops an elbow off the top of the cage onto Triple H and pins him. I don't know if he pins him or leaves the cage. Anyway, he beats Triple H. But when he gets on top, Superfly did the famous the "I love you" pose or whatever. But Foley ripped his shirt open as Mankind, and there was a heart painted as Dude Love on his chest, and he jumped off and dropped the elbow, which kind of showed you that he was sort of fusing his characters. Cool. So, and then, it was, and then at the end or whatever, he was selling or whatever, they played his music at the end and it was Dude Loves, and he starts tapping his foot as he's like out cold, like selling his injury. And then he wakes up and starts like, laughing and acting like Dude Love or whatever. So it was a really cool moment where they put him over on Triple H. It didn't hurt Triple H because Triple H won the King of the Ring a couple months before. So it was awesome. They were starting to believe in Mick Foley.
Up on the top line. What's he doing? Good Lord! 300 pounds off the top! Shades of Jimmy Snuka and the magnificent Morocco! Now he's snapped! Mankind could have won this matchup! Mankind could resist. He came back and dropped the elbow. Now Mankind going up.
It creates the rubber match, right? So,
and meanwhile, Jim Johnson's like, I got to do 5 songs
for one guy.
Dude Love. I don't even know what.
What is that? It doesn't make any sense.
What I will say is, it reminds me of our O.W.P days when we did wrestle. There was a rule because we didn't have too many people wrestling with us. We all had to have that main roster guy, and then we had
a prelim.
Other guy.
Yeah, the enhancement talent.
The enhancement talent. We all had one. Some of us had 3 different characters in that ring, and I think that I don't know if that happens without the likes of Dude Love in those situations, because he actually did it. He did it on the main stage, right? And we're like, we can do that too. It's cool, It brings around a lot of fun. It brings around a lot of creativity as well. So it makes it a lot of fun.
And what trust it shows in McMahon to him too, to run with different gimmicks and one from his child. That's
a good question, Craig.
Wait to get to Mick Foley.
Is it trust or is it desperation at the same time, or a bit of both? They were tanking at this moment, right? And you can tell that they had something, but the ratings didn't show that yet. it was there, but it wasn't showing on TV, right? And they had to get people to turn the channel. And I think Vince is like, well, fuck it, let's try it. I mean, but I don't know, man. It's just me. I'm just thinking out loud. But in '97 on a Raw for Madison Square Garden, Cactus Jack actually does make his debut. So that's now 3 people and with 1 guy. To your point, so that's 4 songs, Craig. At
5.
least 5. And he defeats Hunter in a street fight, capping off their feud for the 3rd time. So Mick wins the rubber match against Triple H, which I can't remember anybody else ever doing that. Triple H ever.
Well,
right?
and Triple H, he wasn't. I think he was leaving Hunter. He wasn't quite Triple H yet here, but China was with them and everything. They were figuring it out. But yeah, like I remember as a fan, like when he did the whole vignette and he was just like, "Oh, it was awesome." It was on the big screen and he had like Mankind sitting in a chair, and then he had like and Mankind's like, "I don't know, I'm kind of beat up. I don't want to fight in a street fight tonight." And then Dude Love comes in. He's like, "Ow, I'm a lover, not a fighter." Like I couldn't do that either. And he was like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And it's just awesome because Foley did this whole skit where, do you think that I think what you're thinking? He's like, no, I think that you think that I think what you're thinking, that you think that I'm thinking that you're thinking. And then he was like, so you want to bring him in? And then Cactus Jack walks in. He's like, hey, like, and it was awesome because he was never at WWF as Cactus Jack, which is what we knew him as before from WCW, from all that other stuff. And he came out and they had a great street fight. It ended with him pile driving Triple H onto a fucking table on the entrance ramp and pinning him. It was awesome. Like, it was great.
It could have gone the other way too. Like he tries to pedigree Cactus on that table and it looked flimsy.
Yeah.
And it was 50-50 whether that table was going to give way and he was going to give that pile driver, but it made the match. And can I just say how my hatred for Triple H rivals Jess's hatred for Shawn Michaels.
That's true.
But I thoroughly enjoyed what an opponent for all the Mick Foley and the 3 faces of Foley was Triple H and Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And maybe Mick helped make and send Triple H to that kind of top tier level. But they worked hard together. They worked well, and it was fun to watch. And this, especially in the Garden, I was impressed with actually Triple H at this match and Cactus Jack. It was good.
And we'll talk about it later. In the year 2000, they would take their feud to an even bigger level. But yeah, this was awesome. Like, I mean, just the vignette worked perfect, and the 3 guys in the vignette, and them just saying, "I can't do this shit. Can you do this shit?" No, I can't. We know someone who can. And it's like, it's awesome that Vince just did let his guard down. He's like, fucking bring in Cactus Jack.
Just do it.
I know someone who dreams about it even more. Who is it, Manny? Someone who's willing to do even worse things than I am. Oh, no. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? I think I am thinking what you think I think you're thinking. Can you bring him out, Manny? Here he comes. Where is he? Cactus Jack. He's back! Somebody sniped me. I thought he was dead. He's alive. Please. He's alive. It may be the darkest day of your life because it's Madison Square Garden and Mrs. Foley's little boy. Bye-bye. Finally home. Bang, bang. Oh, have mercy.
What in the world? God.
And then Jim
Jim
Johnson's like, for Cactus Jack too? What does he even listen to? What's his music? Like, upset.
I gotta make Dewey's music? I don't know who Dewey is.
Hey, Mick, why don't you write your own fucking theme music if you're so good? You want to bring in all these fucking characters. You do it. Like,
well, to your point of all these characters as well, and the 1998 Royal Rumble, all 3 characters enter the Rumble. So
that's amazing.
Foley,
that's awesome.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. So Foley was worn out. He was in tag matches with Terry Funk for the first portion of the year because his body's basically destroyed at this moment. And at WrestleMania 14, Dude Love would align himself with Vince McMahon and challenge Steve Austin for the WWF title. And at King of the Ring 98, Foley's most historic match and moment took place. The company wanted to revive Mankind's feud with The Undertaker to bring back Mankind's heel edge. Foley's character would never be the same after this match.
So yeah, everybody knows. Look, I don't know how much I want to talk about King of the Ring 98. You know, to me, it does not define Foley's career, but yet everybody remembers this, as they should, because it was an amazing spectacle. You know, Foley got thrown off the fucking Hell in the Cell cage. And then he got chokeslammed through the middle of the cage and landed from the middle of the cage through the top to the ring on the bottom, passing one of his teeth through his sinus cavities to where it came out his nose. Then he got chokeslammed onto thumbtacks, which again, we talked about that shit happening in IWA, but you'd never seen it on the big scale like you did here. And 1998, WWF was hot. The wrestling industry was hot. WCW was still hot. Wrestling was just breaking ratings record every single week. And, you know, Foley, I think, said in his book that he was like, okay, they want me to revitalize my feud with the Taker, but we had to do something different. So we're going to do it in the Hell in the Cell. Him and Shawn made that match famous. I'm not Shawn, so I can't have the match that Shawn had. So he came up to the Undertaker and he's like, hey, let's start the match on the top. And Undertaker was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, and then I want you to throw me off it. And Taker's like, no, I'm not doing that. And I guess he had Funk with him, and Funk was like, it's okay, he'll be fine. Like, trying to talk Undertaker into it. And Foley's like, yeah, you got, like, Taker, like, you have to do it. You have to throw me off.
You can just see, like, Mark, it's
and so he's like, dude,
fine.
I'll control. I'm going to land on the announce table. I'll do a basic.
It's a good Funk, Dave.
But, yeah.
That's good Funk.
Mark, you got to do it. So he convinced Undertaker that I'm going to take the bump just fine. I'm going to land on the table. It's a big distance. Yeah. Foley himself even said when I got up there to take the bump, I was like, this shit's way too high. Like this, I did not think this out or whatever, but he had to do it. And I don't know if we want to talk about this match so much because it's been talked about to death. And I don't think it defines his career, but people think it does. And that kind of offends me because I'm like, you have no idea like what else he did, but he was desperate because I think he felt, man,
it's just what,
he'd done 3 characters, right? 3 characters were debuted. Yeah. They were all kind of getting tired because his body physically was getting tired. So he was just like, listen, throw me off the fucking cage. Like, I don't know. And then they were going to do the choke slam. And I think they were supposed to do a spot where he admitted that the top was zip tied, the top, but Taker was supposed to choke slam him on the top of the cage and it not give. And then Taker was going to somehow punch through or something like, and then he was going to throw Foley off and Foley would land in the ring. Yeah. But
I was going to ask you about this. Like Taker thought he was dead.
He choke slammed him. And when he landed, it just broke the zip tie. So Foley fell straight through and bumped on his back, but his hips were going a different direction. So he fucked his hips up. He hurt his collarbone earlier when he got thrown off the top of the cage, and he hit the thing so hard, he hit the mat so hard, his tooth broke and passed through his sinus cavity, came out his nose, and was stuck in his beard.
Because the chair hits him on the way down, right? Yeah.
Yes. And there was chairs that they were hitting each other with on the top. So as he fell through, the chair fell through with him and hit him in the face on the way down. And like, it's just, I can't, I don't want to talk about this match that much. I'm not saying you guys can't. I mean that just kind of as a saying.
No,
I don't want to talk about it much.
I'm the same way.
It's bad. It's bad in the sense of, I can't even call him brave. To me, I'm just like, God, Mick, why? Like, why? Even when I watched it, we were stunned and we were like, why? Why? Like,
because he wants you to love
him, I guess, but fuck, like, I mean, nobody can ever top that. And maybe that's what he wanted, but I don't think he knew it was going to cost him that, because you're going to read on about the damage that it causes to him. But it's like,
he's an absolute, after King of the Ring, he's an absolute physical mess. So he begins forgetting things he's done on a daily basis. He doesn't know how to get to the grocery store. He doesn't remember even going at some point, right? So
he says something about like it took him 2 weeks to go out and get his mail kind of thing. And I'm the same way as Jess. I don't particularly like talking about this match. Like, it's great for the mainstream people. Yeah. And this is one of the matches that you do want to throw in and show someone that's never seen wrestling, to have them respect it and have them respect the athleticism, the entertainment, and the sport of it. But I don't like that this shouldn't define him. And he says in his Hall of Fame speech, I just want everyone to know, yes, it did hurt when the Undertaker threw me off that cage, because he gets asked every day of his life about it. And he's much, much more than this. And it in a way, it sent him into the stratosphere, but it also probably was a bane both in his life and his body. and then people maybe they think this is the only thing that he did, and it's not fair that your defining moment should be this. And then every moment after this, and every Hell in a Cell where they gimmicked the ring and they gimmicked the cell itself that he took, the Triple H stuff, I never fully bought into it. It never matched up to this, and nor should it. I don't know. I mean, it's a very special night, and special in that I respect what it did and did to his body, but I'm the same way. I don't particularly think it should define him, and I don't. It's weird. It's mixed feelings.
Well, I think to your point, Craig, he had to figure out ways that he could be around longer for his family and bring that comedy edge to his persona, and that's where in October 5th, 1998, on an episode of Raw, Mr. Sacco is actually born. So he has to take that step back. He can't do that shit forever.
For as grim and as thick as that King of the Ring aura feels, man, like Mr. Sacco saved his career in the sense it bought him time physically. And those vignettes, that vignette of Vince in the hospital with his leg up and Foley just pestering him the whole night, and then Austin ended up getting in there and like,
Stone Cold gets
dude,
the payoff,
like, I mean, that's like that. I don't remember who I was listening to. It might have been Bruce's podcast. He's like, that vignette was just as good as any Saturday Night Live skit or anything you've ever seen.
Oh,
it was just beautiful, and Foley was genius, and like
I'll take it from here,
he
nurse.
debuted Mr. Sacco. but Mr. Sacco wasn't meant to extend. He brought Mr. Sacco out and thought it would be a thing, but people started bringing socks to the arena with the face on it saying it's Mr. Sacco. So it's like, well, shit, I'm going to put that down my pants, and instead of doing the mandible claw, I'm going to stick Sacco down their throat. And it just became this comedy thing that people pop for.
Did they ever sell Mr. Sacco's?
I believe they did.
They should.
I believe they did.
They should have.
When I got the DVD of Mick Foley, God, it had to have been almost fucking 8 years ago now. It was a best of Mick Foley or Mick Foley's best matches or whatever. I got the DVD set, and in the DVD set came a Mr. Sacco for you. Like, it was great.
No way. This isn't the greatest hits and misses, right? This is the one after that, like the last. Yeah.
You'll just love it, I guarantee you. You sure will.
I don't want
See, I
this
can tell the
candy.
difference it's making already.
I don't want.
Smiling.
I brought one other visitor, another special guest. What the hell are you doing? Mr. Sacco! Say hello to Mr. Sacco! Mr. Sacco knows you've been feeling mighty bad, so he's gonna give your boo-boo a big kiss!
You're gonna what? Hey, no, Mick, please. Please, just
Mr.
leave.
Sacco!
Please leave, please.
Damn it, leave.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And then after that, Vince McMahon would actually create the hardcore title and actually award it to Mankind. That's pretty cool. And then he would follow Vince around, seeking approval like that father figure. He turned heel, and it seemed like he was guaranteed to win a tournament at Survivor Series in a swerve, bro. God damn it. Nobody made me say that. The Rock would turn heel and defeat Mankind in a sharpshooter. Vince would order the bell to ring, mocking the events from the year before. We all know about the screw job, right? So, and this would set Foley up for the biggest moment of his career on a it's still fascinating. I'm sorry. On a taped episode of Raw that aired January 4th, 1999, Mankind would defeat The Rock to win his first WWF championship. And the thing is that I know it's not in the notes here, Jess, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it, but this caused the biggest channel flip of the Monday Night Wars that we could ever possibly even think of, right?
Yeah, WWF had kind of already put WCW back in his place at this point, but WCW every now and then were winning a week here and there.
They would jab.
They weren't dead. Yeah, they weren't dead.
Here
WCW. So this is the same night that the infamous Finger Poke of Doom debuted on WCW Nitro, where Hulk came back out of nowhere. Nash had beaten Goldberg and ended his undefeated streak at Starrcade a week before, and so Hogan came back and said he wanted to challenge Nash for the title. So they were going to schedule a match for them at the end. And they were in the Georgia Dome, which was Goldberg's hometown. So you would think Goldberg would have a big role to play in this Nitro.
Like a run.
Not so much.
Yeah.
So basically the NWO had been factioned off for like 6 months before. It was Wolfpack and Black and White. So they acted like NWO was pretty much almost done. So what they did was Hogan and Nash fought each other for the title at the end of the night on Nitro, and for the title, and Hulk just walked up to him and poked him in the chest. Nash took this over dramatic fall, and Hogan pinned him. Hulk wins the world title back out of nowhere on this big episode of Nitro where they have like 30,000 people in the Georgia Dome, and it's supposed to. This was a Nitro they had to really punch WWF back because WWF had kind of been taken over again. But right before this match started, they went to a commercial, and they were like, when we come back, Hulk Hogan will challenge Kevin Nash for the title. Don't bother flipping over to the other channel. It's pre-taped, and they're having Mick Foley win their world title. Wow, that's going to put some butts in some seats. Stay tuned, folks. At that moment, hundreds of thousands of people switched over to Raw, a pre-taped Raw, and not only helped the Raw win that night, the ratings, so WCW didn't even win the ratings that night, but we got to see probably the loudest pop I've ever heard in my life when Austin came down to help Mick Foley. Austin comes down, and I think Austin was injured or held out of the building all night or something like that. And when it was during the match of Rock and Triple H, Rock and Mankind. And Mankind looked like he was done. DX was down at ringside to support Mankind, and the corporate ministry was down at the other side of the ring to support The Rock. And Foley looked like he was done. And then Austin's music hit, and that fucking place went nuts. Like, I've never seen a pop or heard one louder than that. I challenge anyone to go back and watch that. And people were going nuts. He gets in the ring. He hits Rock in the face with a chair. The place gets even louder. Foley jumps on top. The ref counts 3. The place gets even louder. And everybody picks Foley up on the shoulders and parades him around the ring with the title. And he's holding it. And an absolutely amazing moment. Like an amazing, perfectly booked, Jesus Christ. Like it is, and it was pre-taped, and it still beat Nitro because Nitro's so dumb at that point they could not get out of their own way. Like it is a piece of history that has been talked about a million times, and it's something that you just see that shift where WCW was going to go down anyway, right? I'm convinced, but that comment, I don't know if WCW ever won after that. I think I legitimately think after going into 99, they just fell downhill, and it was done. Like WWF, I think on that night put the final nail in the coffin for them, because when it came to a live show, which should have garnered more interest, and creative versus creative, which WCW should have put their best foot forward, they didn't. They tried to rehash the NWO. They tried to bring it back, and it didn't work. And a pre-taped event that they did was so good that people were like, fuck that. Yeah, I want to see Foley win. I do. Because Foley's awesome. And like maybe the cage, throwing off the cage paid off here. You know what I mean? Like maybe that is what made people finally want to see Foley win it. And when he did, it was like, holy shit. Like, and he got on the mic afterwards. He's like, yo, Dewey, I did it. Like kind of mocking Rocky, but talking to his kid at home saying, Dewey, I did it, or whatever. Then it was just awesome. Like, I think for Foley in his personal life, this had to be like, shit, man. Like, anything I do after this is all, it's just all, it's all gravy, baby. Like it was awesome. It's an awesome moment.
Billy Gunn on Shamrock. DX and the corporate team are going at it. Look out. Stone Cold is here. Stone Cold is here.
I mean, it's hubris. It's like branding 101 is you don't mention your competitor. If you're Coke, you don't mention or say the name Pepsi. So for Bischoff to think maybe he's sitting there in the Georgia Dome with 30,000 people thinking, I got this. I can.
Well, that
I
had
can
worked. That
bear
had
it
worked.
even
Remember
more.
when they first started Nitro in '95? They did start
That
calling,
would give the ending
but
away.
both
yeah.
promotions were not. Wrestling wasn't mainstream yet. It hadn't been since the Rockin' '80s. It hadn't revisited that, so it worked then. But here, wrestling was majorly mainstream. I mean, they were setting ratings records every week between both shows.
Yeah.
So you're right. When you're visible to the world. You do not mention Pepsi when you're Coke. You don't do it.
And it shows no
Yeah.
respect for Foley either. A guy
That's
that
what,
worked
that's
for
what I'm
you.
saying.
Like,
It's purely a disbelief
huge-
that it's purely a disbelief that Foley could carry that, and their minds are like, it's fucking Foley. Yeah, I'm gonna say that because he's a piece of shit. That's why they did it.
Make
they
sure
didn't
if you say
believe
that,
it.
you are referencing a piece of shit. You're referencing RC Cola and not someone who is silently beloved by many of the people that spend their lives flipping back and forth.
They
anyway.
didn't. Yeah, they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
So
Bischoff,
that's
they
on
didn't believe
Bischoff.
it.
Like that just poor
Yeah.
marketing.
And
poor
the fact
branding.
that I hate to say it, they give Shivani so much shit. He was told to say that. It was not his decision. So, lay off Shivani. But yeah, I agree. So he would actually lose the title back to Rock in an I Quit match at Royal Rumble in January of '99. Foley would not actually say I quit. Someone played that soundbite of him saying that from a previous promo. And then Mankind would actually win his second WWF championship by defeating The Rock at a Super Bowl halftime special and an empty arena match. Guys, this has so much nostalgia over it. It's absolutely incredible. He would lower a forklift with a pallet onto The Rock's chest to make sure he couldn't kick out of the pin to win his second world title. That's super cool. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. The Rock would finally defeat Foley for the title on February 15th of '99, the edition of Raw in a ladder match. And after taking 3 months off to recover from knee surgery, Triple H would kayfabe hit his knee with a sledgehammer to take that time off. Foley returns as Mankind. It was inserted into the main event of SummerSlam '99, making it a three-way match against Triple H and Austin for the WWF title. Foley shocked everyone by pinning Austin and winning the title for a third time.
Just 3 months for a knee injury and knee surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy just to scope either. That's the way it probably was. And I'm sure McMahon gave his typical call of need you, brother, need you, pal, probably sooner than you're ready to go. But this was the complete peak of the era. I'm sure Foley, fully realized it too.
The gravy, kept coming. It's so he wins the title for the first time. He beats The Rock. Maybe you've heard of him a little bit. And then he beats The Rock to win his second title. And to win his third title, he beats Stone Cold Steve Austin. Listen, you can say what you want about Vince or whatever, but Vince paid Foley back tenfold. Even, I dare I say, paid Foley back for all the dues he paid in WCW and in ECW and IWA before. I think Vince was just pour it on, man. You fucking fell off a cage for me. You can say what you want about Vince, but when you look at this layout, he can say not only all the titles that he won, but I was WWF champion 3 times and I beat The Rock twice. The Rock. And I beat Steve Austin.
Yeah.
I will say, though,
that's a career right there, man. Button it up. It's done, right?
I will say this match was a disappointment. Jesse Ventura was the guest referee.
Correct. Yes.
Guest referees were always a bit sketchy. I watched it back today and it was very ugh. And then part of me and the cynical side of me said, well, McMahon promised him the title, and then he lost it the next night, right?
Yeah,
sure.
So it's come back, get the pop, but you're not keeping it. So, and that's terrible to say. 3 WWF, WWE championships, fantastic. He certainly probably didn't expect one. But this was a moment maybe coming back too soon. Good for him, but
I would have liked to see a bigger moment. You could argue the injury is hey, let's get this big payoff and let's have Triple H carry it. It's a Ric Flair-esque kind of situation. Flair would lose the title after someone would chase him for 6 months. He'd win it back in 2 weeks. You know, this is where we are right now.
It was clunky. It was a
And-
clunky SummerSlam.
It was. I remember that match being a letdown. Austin was injured. He would go away for a while after that to heal. And
Sure.
and this was all about grooming Triple H, because, as I know you're going to get to, Dave, Triple H would beat him the next night to win his first ever WWF championship. And then
I didn't even realize that's Triple H's first one.
No,
Wow.
me neither.
Yeah, so they were trying to
Wow.
groom Triple H to be the big heel here, knowing Austin was going to be out for a while, knowing they had to kind of groom a big heel. This is when the Helmsley
That's crazy.
McMahon era would start, with Stephanie and Triple H and all that.
God, it's so fun. So fun. In September 99, The Rock and Mankind would form the Rock and Sock Connection, and they would win the tag titles on 3 occasions. And this is where you see the infamous segment of Rock, this is your life. The segment would receive the highest quarter-hour rating of it. Really? An 8.4 rating, Jess? In Raw
Yeah, and
history?
it was never
that record has never.
Yeah,
been
it's never been broken.
Yeah,
It
go
was the
ahead.
highest quarter-hour rating ever of professional wrestling, like in the Monday Night Wars. It was an 8.4. This
Yeah.
segment went on too long. They got bitched out when they went in the back because it went on too long.
I was gonna say,
And
yeah,
it was,
Vince gave
when
him
you go back
hell.
and watch this segment, it was actually not.
It's
It
long.
was way too fucking long. But they had some good moments in it, whatever. But like, it was way too long. But they were so on fire, and WCW was so not on fire at this point that people.
I'm just
The
saying.
Rock was
dude,
on fire, right? The Rock was fucking electric, and
Yeah.
The Rock was ratings.
If you,
Yeah.
but if you don't have Cuz play the "My Birthday's" and whatever, you stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You know.
I can't get neutered. Look at the cake. I don't like the looks of that cake either.
Naturally, The Rock is appreciative to all of his fans, but to you, The Rock's birthday's May 2nd, you stupid son of a...
He screwed up again. 5-6 months,
I know that, Rock. It's just that for some reason, every day I get to spend a little time with you feels like somebody's birthday.
He means it too, does Mick Foley. Hey, look at that! There's Triple H.
And you know who else was upset actually in reading some research on this? Jim Johnson had to come up with a "This Is Your Life" theme tune, and he was not happy.
Oh no!
Wait,
So that's
I have to
7
think,
now, right?
a theme
We're
song
talking
for
7?
Gerbil the Clown? What the fuck are we doing here, Vince? Like,
Coach Johnson and his high school girlfriend. Yeah.
Oh my god!
I mean, everyone worked really hard during the Attitude Era. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, they did, yeah. In October '99, the documentary film Beyond the Mat hits theaters, just to give you a timeline perspective there. And then in January of 2000, Foley would once again feud with Triple H. He would state Mankind and Dude Love didn't have what it took to defeat Triple H, but Cactus Jack did. They were scheduled to face each other for the WWF title at the Royal Rumble in 2000 in a street fight live from Madison Square Garden. After an incredible match, Triple H would pin Cactus to retain the title.
Of course, he
we
would.
talked about this off the air. You guys need to take it over, but this was such a big
well,
deal.
and two, this played off their
of how
feud
Triple
in
H sells this,
'97,
yeah?
where
Yeah.
he debuted Cactus Jack in 1997 on a Raw from Madison Square Garden, coming in and he beat Triple H. Now here we are in the year 2000. Triple H is world champion. Well, you've beat all my other personas, but there's one that you never fucking beat, and Cactus Jack was that guy. So it was awesome. I remember that match being absolutely awesome.
It was
and then
great.
to tie in the Beyond the Mat real quick, what's relevant about that is that covered, like 3 years. It covered like a 3-year period leading up to 1999. Part of that was Foley was featured in that documentary, and his match with The Rock at the Royal Rumble earlier that year in the I Quit match, where The Rock beat the shit out of him with a chair, and Foley got his head split open, and Foley's family's in the front row, and they started crying. They had to leave early because it was so brutal. So this brought even more sympathy on Mick Foley as a character and Mankind as a whole as well. And so like this kept Foley going. So yeah, when it's like Triple H was this heel champion, Foley's like, I'll put him over. He put me over back in 97. So like I got all this momentum from this movie. And Vince ended up hating Beyond the Mat, by the way, and shitting on it and trying to erase it. But But like this was, people were all about Mick Foley at this point. So yeah, putting him in here at Royal Rumble 2000, this match was, again, it's one of the ones you got to go back and fucking watch. Like Triple H worked his ass off. He really did. And Mick Foley, of course, was, you know, fantastic as Cactus Jack and took thumbtacks and shit, and Triple H really got his calf broke open. He got backdropped onto a crate, a wooden crate. And I guess there was like a splinter hanging out, and it jabbed Triple H in his calf, like stuck in his calf muscle. This match was brutal and awesome. This match was awesome and brutal, and it's just, you know.
Did he bleed to death, or is he okay?
You know, he lived for a little while longer. I hear. So, but it just goes to show, you know, you could say I know Craig's disdain rivals my disdain of Shawn Michaels, but you know, you think automatically that the Undertaker is his greatest opponent because of the Hell in the Cell, especially. But I think Triple H is his best opponent. I think that because it ultimately gave back to the business. Foley knew, I'm getting done. I'm getting tired. I got to put this guy over. It's Vince wants to put money in Triple H. I have to do what I have to do to get this guy over. And their match at Royal Rumble 2000 was phenomenal. Go back and watch it. Foley would end up losing, but I mean, yeah, it is fantastic. It was great.
Well, you know, he does demand a rematch at the next pay-per-view at No Way Out. Triple H says the only way he's going to do that is if Mick puts his career on the line. Foley said he would accept that stipulation if it was a Hell in a Cell match where Triple H would defeat Foley there, defend his title, forcing Mick Foley to retire. This would end his full-time in-ring career of 17 years. For 2 months?
Yeah.
Just back up.
But I mean, honestly, like, to be honest, like, it did end his full-time career. He did come back in 2 months, but then he would start coming back like once every X amount of months or whatever. But this legitly ended his run.
This is your legend
from 1983 contract, all the way till now in 2000 here. It ended his run. That's a long run. Doing what he did to his body, that's a long fucking run.
For sure. And I just want to say, talking about Beyond the Mat, everyone listening to this, there's no reason, and I'm sure 99% of you have seen Beyond the Mat, but you really, if you haven't already, as any wrestling fans, see that documentary. And I think this podcast should probably do a Beyond the Mat review if you have not already. It has spurned so many quotes.
Yeah,
we still quote back and forth after 20 years of that thing together. Beyond the Mat, it's just it's special. And to your point, the sympathy and the respect for Foley after watching that, and Jake, and oh man, the Exterminator. What's his name?
I'm not booked.
What's his name?
I cannot remember his name.
Oh, shit!
I cannot believe I can't remember his name.
God, I'm really pissed right now.
Yeah, me too.
You come ref this. It's my last match.
He was the ref for Bret Hart and Terry Funk. His name is. He's an. Oh my God.
Yeah. He gets on the trampoline with the dumbbells. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's.
Look it up.
You never know when that phone's gonna ring. I'm not booked, Terry.
I gotta get on the
People are screaming at us right now.
Dennis Stamp.
God damn it, Dennis Stamp. Yep. Fuck. Sorry, Dennis Stamp. All the respect in the world to Dennis Stamp.
I'm not sorry.
I love him
so much. His name is deserving to be forgotten. Fucking deserved to be forgotten. Jesus. So he would, meaning Mick Foley, not Dennis Stamp, would return at WrestleMania 6.
Dennis Stamp comes back WrestleMania 6.
2 months later, he's booked. He's booked at WrestleMania for the first time in the WWF since 1986 under his real name of Mick Foley. Part of the main event and a fatal four-way match against Triple H, Big Show, and The Rock for the WWF Championship. This was also his first and only WrestleMania main event, believe it or not.
That's stunning to me.
Yeah. For the next year, he'd be commissioner of Raw under his real name, Mick Foley. Produced some of the funniest and most memorable.
Can I say, truly, I do want to touch on that. Like, Mick Foley is so great that even when his in-ring career was over and he was commissioner during that period, all of his segments just meant something. And he wanted to work with younger guys like Edge and Christian and do funny skits with them, and Kurt Angle and all these guys. Like, he did so many good like vignettes and stuff here as commissioner. where every Raw, he would have an office at a different part of the building. And one building, he was in the laundry room, and he carried this stupid fucking puppet with him, or like this little thing. And he would place the puppet in a different place in the shot. So you had to kind of find it every week. It was just cool little stuff that he did. And I remember it being in the dryer, and you just seeing it's like going over again. And the puppet in the background is being,
it was cactuses on a golf cart. Like,
yeah. And like, so he would make his makeshift office, like, you know, when Vince was commissioner or Vince, whatever, it was a big office. But every week Foley would have this crazy makeshift office, whether it was in the laundry room, the boiler room, the bathroom. One was in the bathroom one time. Like, and he was just like, you know, and he would do funny skits with Al Snow, Edge and Christian, like I said, Angle, you know, of course, then the bigger stars would come in there and do funny skits with him too. But he was awesome. Like, even non-competitive in the ring, he knew how to get other people over at the expense of himself, but still be funny at the same time. He's amazing. Like, and this was awesome. The commissioner years were super memorable. He was great.
Absolutely. He was also the special guest referee for Vince versus Shane Showdown at WrestleMania 17. And then we start winding down into the end of his career, appearing at several indie shows between 01 and 03. In late 2003, he would return to the WWE after being attacked and kicked down the stairs by Randy Orton. Foley would ask The Rock to return to the WWF to reform The Rock and Sock Connection for WrestleMania 20 against Evolution, Flair, Orton, and Batista. And Orton would score the pinfall on Foley there. Again, he's putting guys over. This is the thing. Go ahead.
I started my research for Foley kind of on the final thing that he did, which was like the 2012 Royal Rumble. But to go back only 8 years, and his match against Randy Orton at Backlash.
Yeah.
Was so good.
He looked the best that he looked. I believe someone in commentary said that his weight was the lowest since 1989. His focus and his tenacity, like, and the way he moved, like, it was like you were looking at a WCW when he first started against like Sting or something. Like,
well, and going back like before that at WrestleMania 20 in that tag match, he was disappointed in himself because he got to come back to WrestleMania, not in the main event, but in a featured match with The Rock, who had been, you know, away for movies and shit. And then they're taking on this new faction, Evolution, which, you know, he knew his job once again. I got to get Orton over because I'm going to, you know, face Orton again, you know, at the next pay-per-view. But he was out of shape for WrestleMania 20, and he was disappointed because he said, like, look, like, he got to main event WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania 2000, you know, in the Fatal 4-Way that we talked about. But he thought he was going to be retired. And then Vince is like, a month later, hey, you want to come back for WrestleMania? He's like, I just lost a retirement match for you. And I literally been shoving my face full of carbs for 30 days now. I'm super fat. And he's like, no. So he missed spots in that match and was always disappointed. I got my first main event at WrestleMania and I didn't have a moment. Then he comes back for WrestleMania 20 with The Rock to do the Rock and Sock thing. He did it. If you go back and watch the match, it didn't quite gel. It was okay. And it got the point. Orton got the clean pin, which was awesome. But I mean, like, it didn't gel. Again, Foley didn't have his moment. So Foley had to get in shape in like a 2-month vacuum, like I think he was already starting to get in shape during the Mania 20 push, but he wasn't in shape for that match. But he ended up, like Craig said, being in great shape for Backlash, like 2 months later to face Orton. And like, it bothered him that he didn't have that WrestleMania moment, which we'll talk about later. But this was another milestone where he's like, if I'm going to come back,
it makes up for it. At Backlash,
if I'm going to come back, I have to fucking look good. So it was another little blip milestone that I talked about that I've kind of gotten away from.
And he made Orton, like, I've never truly liked Orton. I don't think I'd ever seen this match either. But when Orton took bare back on all those thumbtacks in almost the first 10
minutes. And the barbed
minutes,
wire bat.
And then has to then like be thrown off the ramp through a wooden kind of on the wires and the cords with that on his back, and then wrestle. Like, I had so much respect for him, and it was like Foley was going to kind of hand it off to like Orton, like, but you're going to go through some shit, and he did. Like, it was fantastic. Like, it was great. You can see why Foley mentioned it in his Hall of Fame speech to Orton.
It totally puts Orton.
I've never seen Orton work so hard, for God's sake. Like, man.
That's not even a match. It's a war. I don't know what you would call this. It's a slaughter. That did it! The RKO with a baseball bat.
better. It's Mick Foley, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And Foley would return to WWF to face Edge at WrestleMania 22 in a street fight. Again, putting Edge over with that ridiculous spear on Foley.
So, and this was the reason why Foley wanted to come back here. He knew he would never get a main event again, but it always bothered him that he never had an actual WrestleMania. Out of all the other moments, he was thrown off a cage at a King of the Ring. He had all these other great moments at other events, but he never had that WrestleMania moment. And I want to say he did with Edge. Not only was this match awesome, he looked great here with Edge, but that flaming table was awesome. Again, he's selflessly putting Edge over, the younger talent, and he looked awesome here. Another great match to go back and watch of his. Like, Foley is, what did he say? We're going to say more later. Go on. Like, it's just so good. He's so good. Like,
yeah. He returns to Vengeance in 2005 in a 2 out of 3 falls match against Flair. Flair would win those matches in 2 straight falls. They would rematch in a bloody and brutal I Quit match, street fight at SummerSlam of 2005. Flair would force Foley to quit when he grabbed Marlena. In a storyline, she was friends with Foley and threatened to use the barbed wire baseball bat on her, and both men were absolutely covered in blood. Hold on, guys. I got a Black Widow up in here. Give me one second.
Yes. Eat it, Dave. Eat it.
Sorry about that. No, I won't do that. But I got him. He would try a brief stint as color commentator for SmackDown in 2008, but only lasted for 4 months. He just couldn't take VKM yelling in his headset at him. He joined TNA in 2008 after leaving WWE. He would wrestle a handful of matches there. Flair was pretty bloody. He would also be special guest referee, commentator, and do duties behind the scenes. He would depart there in 2011, and then he would return to WWE in the same year, doing a house show in Dublin. While on his UK comedy tour, he would appear in the 2012 Royal Rumble, only lasting 6 minutes, and he was eliminated by Cody Rhodes. That was his final match in WWF. He was scheduled to take on Dean Ambrose at SummerSlam. He could not pass the physical to be cleared and was forced to announce his retirement. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013.
So that's my beef right here. Listen, I understand how everything went down that year. When they first announced Foley as the class of 2013, I was super fucking excited. And I was like, he's going to be the main guy, right? Like I said earlier, every year there's a main, you have like 4 or 5 inductees, but you have that main guy. Hulk's going in this year, so obviously it's Hulk's year, So I was so excited that Foley was going to be the main event, that Foley was going to be the guy. Before they had the fucking Hall of Fame that year, a couple of months before, maybe even only a month before, the WWE, Triple H specifically, mended fences with Bruno Sammartino. And so they, of course, talked Bruno Sammartino, please come back, because Bruno Sammartino did not like Vince Jr. He loved Vince Sr., but never liked Vince Jr. And there was a storied history between the company and that. And Vince could never get Sammartino to break down and come back and be part of the Hall of Fame. Triple H somehow broke that barrier and got, impressed his father-in-law and got Bruno Sammartino to come back. Unfortunately, they were like, we got to get Bruno Sammartino in the Hall of Fame this year in case he changes his mind and doesn't want to go in next year. So they brought him in that same year as Foley, thus making Bruno Sammartino the main centerpiece for that year. Listen, no offense against Bruno Sammartino, and he deserves all the accolades he gets, because Sammartino was part of an era before the Hulk era. It was, he was
just say it,
but
bro.
it's bullshit that Foley got ripped off of that centerpiece that year. He fucking deserves it. And that's why I'm so excited that we're doing this legacy. He fucking deserved it. Like, what? I know Vince gave him a lot of stuff, right? Vince arguably gave him the best career that he could ever have, and he gave him 3 world titles. And I'm not saying shit on that. Vince obviously loved Foley and wanted to put stock in him, but Vince obviously is super selfish at times too. And he took from Foley just as much as Foley gave. Like, Vince had no problem shitting on Foley sometimes and making Foley look stupid and the fodder when, Foley didn't need to look like that. But give the fucking, how, I can't even, I'm so pissed. Like, everything he's done in his career, he should have been the fucking main event that year at the Hall of Fame. I know why they did it and I understand. But you know what? Put fucking Bruno Sammartino, or you know what? Pull Foley out and put Foley in next year. Foley did,
And Foley would have
and
waited.
like Craig said, they used to do a USA special of the night of the Hall of Fame. So the Hall of Fame would be happening that night. The Hall of Fame is like 4 hours long, but USA would be like, okay, we'll chime in for 2 hours live, and or even an hour. I don't even remember what it was. So you got to pick and choose. So they would book the Hall of Fame night around the people that were going to go live to USA that night. And like Craig said, they almost didn't include Foley in the live. So you fuck him over and you don't make him the centerpiece of 2013, because I get it. I get what happened with Sammartino, but then you go as far as to almost kick him off the live broadcast of USA. Fuck you all. Like, this fucking guy, like, wrote books himself. No ghostwriter, wrote books himself, which paved the way for your other stars to write memoirs, and that WWE would get behind because they saw how successful Foley's fucking books were. So Foley fucking did that for you. Then you fucking, like, he falls off a fucking cage for you, falls through a cage for you, gets thumbtacks, puts Edge over, puts Orton over, your fucking future, puts them over like a fucking professional should do, and then you replace him with Sammartino. Again, I'm willing to accept that, but then you almost cut him out of the live broadcast? Fuck you. So how did that almost even happen? Fuck you. Sorry. I'm done. Take over. Fucking garbage. Garbage.
I'm not arguing it, man. I'm not trying to fight you on it. I just like to get into the awards.
Get to the awards.
Accomplishments.
And you know who else was inducted? It was Backlund, I believe, right? Like,
I don't.
Yeah, it's fine. Fuck him.
But I mean, if it's those three, like, just switch it. Have Sammartino lead off because Foley went first. Have Foley like finish it off. Like,
it's again,
it's a television spectacle for television and audience that's based on fans that are watching the current product.
My ultimate gripe is not that Sammartino ended up like taking the main event slot that year. I get why that happened. I truly do. But to almost, like Craig said earlier, to almost cut him out of the live broadcast, fuck you for even thinking that.
Was it live broadcast or was it controversy over putting it together for the taped thing? It was
alive, because like what they did is they would have the Hall of Fame and then USA would chime in and hit the live. Yeah.
At a period of time. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, moving forward. Yeah, he should have had his own year. Should have been the main event guy. If Goldberg can get a fucking main event year, of retirement, Mick certainly deserves that. So Mick is a multiple New York Times bestselling author of 5 memoirs that he actually wrote himself. He's written 4 children's books. He's written 2 fiction books. He's the PWI Inspirational Wrestler of the Year in 93. He owns the PWI Match of the Year 1998 versus Undertaker and Hell in the Cell, obviously. PWI Match of the Year versus The Rock at Royal Rumble in 99. I don't know too many that have more than a couple of Match of the Years. You're getting on Flair Hogan status and those kind of things at that point. That's pretty incredible. He's an ECW Tag Team Championship with Mickey Whipwreck, TNA Heavyweight Champion, WCW Tag Team Champion with Kevin Sullivan, WWF Hardcore Champion, and Tag Team Championship 8 times with, I said, we didn't even get into these, right? Steve Austin, Terry Funk, Kane twice, The Rock 3 times, and Al Snow in our archives. I would have liked to see that title go a little bit further with Al Snow. Win a couple weeks, I think. WWF World Title 3 times. WWE Class of 2013 Hall of Fame. He's a Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame Class of 2000. Wrestling Observer Reader's Favorite Wrestler in 98. He's a Wrestling Observer Best Promotion, 95.
No, best promo, like interview promo.
Yeah, best promo interview. Did I not make that clear? My bad. 2004, 2006. Wrestling Observer Feud of the Year versus Triple H in 2000. That's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Hey, by the way, where did Bang Bang come from, guys?
Bang Bang came from, he said that he was, the song Love Shack. From the B-52s at the point where they're like, bang, bang, on the door, baby, bang, bang. So he had that song in his head. One time. And so he was doing a match, and at the end of the match, he was sitting on the apron, and he knew the camera was on him. And he just had the song in his head, so he goes, bang, bang, and put 2 guns up, and that was it. and he was known in the locker room as the Bang Bang guy and all that stuff. And he was like, that actually came from a B-52 song. I just didn't say on the door. I just said Bang Bang. Like, and it's amazing. Like the way, like,
on the door.
Yeah, one of his most famous things, Bang Bang, like in the Double Guns, was from a B-52 song.
Yep. So apparently he's also a big Christmas and Disneyland kind of freak, right? Happily married to Colette Christie since 1992, who Jess and Craig couldn't get enough of. How did he marry a supermodel? Even Mick Foley doesn't know how that happened. He must have forgot. He has 4 kids, Dewey, that we discussed on just a few moments, Noelle, Michael, and Mickey. Isn't Noelle getting into the business?
I'm going to cut into the chase. No, she's not. She's an influencer on social media. And Noelle Foley is hot. So let's just say that.
she follow her on Twitter. Like she's very hot. She's an influencer. She does things. She's always in the first couple of rows. She's pitching products, but she's beautiful and she's an advocate and loves wrestling.
Oh, well, that's great.
I think she trained for a while, right? But
yeah, she tried to, but it's just, it ain't gonna.
It
not for everybody.
It's not, man. We talk about this over and over. I never even went. I know a few of you guys went to a tryout, and after like a day, you guys.
It was rough, dude. It was rough.
We've been trying to fall into that properly.
Dave.
I didn't even try. I knew I couldn't do it.
It wasn't a tryout. It's a lifestyle.
Okay, well. How'd that lifestyle work out?
And I'm right.
It lasted a day.
Yeah, we were in there for one full day. I almost killed myself and knocked myself out, and we all had rope bruises from the ropes. That's how hard the ropes are for like a week after.
And we're bitching about that, and Mick is falling from.
And our piece of shit friend Joe, who is naturally gifted, fucking excelled like that whole day. Meanwhile, Craig and I were sweating our balls off and gasping for air and all that stuff. And Joe's just a fucking natural in there. And even the trainer
to hear Jesse Hernandez, like the SoCal leader of the Federation, after I got slammed, to hear him say that was the shits, so I could hear it.
Yeah. And Craig and I are dying, and then he goes up to Joe next week. He's like, "You're gonna come back next week, right?" To Joe, because Joe had natural ability, and Joe's like, "Well, I don't know." And he was like, "You should come back next week." And I was like, "Oh, fuck you, Joe, like you bastard."
Hey, do you want me to come back? He's like,
no. The skinny guys, get the fuck out of here. We don't really want you here at all.
It was a drizzling shit. Yeah. Well, that's episode 2 of Mick Foley. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P 2019. You can click on Linktree. Find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. And don't forget, we are now part of the WrestleHub family, all about wrestling podcast. Find them at WrestleHub on YouTube and Instagram. Once again, this is Dave, Jess, and Craig with the O.W.P signing off.
The shits.
The shits.
San Martino. Bob Backlund and I have held the WWE title for a total of 6,225 days. No, I don't think the fans need an individual breakdown. All right. I've got the numbers here. Bruno Sammartino held on to the WWE title for a combined total of 4,040 days. Bob Backlund held on to the WWE title for a combined total of 2,138 days. I held it